Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
Today we have a plethora of discussion around body image, self-taught,
Just positivity, negativity.
Right. Body positivity.
The power of people's comments, all that stuff.
It kind of all started with, I have a client that I just adore. It brings up so much tears whenever she wants to start talking about, or whenever we're talking about, like, you know, how she's doing with things and stuff like that. And it's almost like the tears just start. And then what's behind them is always this thing on body isn't changing, you know, things aren't happening. Or I don't want to use the word shame, but there's this inability to accept her body. Like, it feels like there's something more there. Like there's something so wrong with it. Like, it's just, you know, she's beautiful. And there's something that is so uncomfortable for her.
When someone you trust tells you anything, you believe it, and you start to believe it as your parent tells you suck. Right. You believe that. I mean, ultimately, that's where that comes from.
Yeah. And so much of it is definitely the upbringing. I know that one of the parents has just awful, body image and relationship with food. And so I guess if that parent has a similar, say, structure, then there's probably some association with that too. And just watching somebody else not appreciate and not like their body, I'm sure that there's just a lot of layers in with that.
Well, let's talk about two examples. One you've heard and another one I'll share, but like this goes so far beyond just body image. So, with you that, I asked a 3-year-old for a bite of a cookie and he said, there's too much sugar in there for you. So I couldn't have a bite of the cookie because he, just 3 years old,
mind-blowing,
says there's too much sugar in it. You can't have that. 3 years old. That's a learned. And 7-year-old right now who is 40 pounds. So she's pretty malnourished. So ultimately, when you talk to her, it's, well, what do you eat? I only eat healthy foods. And when you start to talk to her even more, she's not allowed to have another, like a second helping of a food. She's not allowed to have junk food. She's not allowed to do, she's severely malnourished, 40 pounds, like 3-year-olds weigh 40, like, to put it into perspective.
So they're already teaching this child to not be intuitive when this child knows how much she needs at any given time.
Correct.
And if we are going to consume whatever quote unquote healthy means to this family and to anybody, this requires such a higher volume of intake in order to meet caloric needs. Right.
We filed a CPS report.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. But here's how I'm relating it to, we're doing this pod about body image, but like she hears these things. The 3-year-old hears these things.
Correct.
And I'm bringing up a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old because they're little and people just dismiss the fact that they compute anything.
Right.
They compute everything.
Right.
If you set them up to eat McDonald's 3 days a week, they're going to know that. And that's what they do. If you're going to set them up to, hate themselves, then they're going to hate themselves. Like you're creating all of the webbing within their brain early on.
We're planting the beliefs around for this child. And so then when they're 30 years old, all of those beliefs that they learned at 3 and 7 are coming out and and dysfunctional at that point.
Correct. Right.
And then that's when they're all confused and
Right.
struggling with life.
Right. So when I say, a parent, a boyfriend, a wife, a whomever you care about, AKA trust, says you're fat or I hate your hair or whatever, you believe it. And you hold on to that comment for a very long time. And people already have a hard time letting things go.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. Which in turn just sort of leads us to the clients now who are really any age, from 30s to 60s, that are really struggling with accepting themselves, accepting their bodies.
What I don't understand is why an ex partner from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago has that much power over you.
Well, yeah.
That because of something someone said. And I understand we have to, I'm not putting trauma in a different kit. Like trauma happens and people live within their trauma unless they're getting trauma therapy. I'm just saying the basic comments, the basic things as it relates to body image that's going on. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like I'm not dismissing people who have experienced real trauma, and it is hard to break free of that.
So this kind of goes in line to what I'm noticing, and I'm seeing this start in all ages, not just the younger kids who have grown up with the internet, let's say. I'm seeing this everywhere. We are in this world that has become so dependent on technology. I have found, and I'm noticing, that we are becoming less and less connected to ourselves.
And each other.
To ourselves and each other, but the ability to look inside, to ground yourself, to be in your body, and in your body that knows everything. Your body literally knows everything. It knows what it needs. And when I say that, it knows what it needs, if you're able to be in tune with it, you pay attention, you're thinking of even you're thinking about something that you want to do, you will get the nudge if it's a yes or a no. Right. Even with what you're eating, or the volume that you're going to get the nudge of, we've had enough, or I think I'm done with this flavor, or I think I need more. Like, we are losing this ability to be able to just check in. And it's becoming so much so that it's like, why are we giving our power away to almost anybody, but in particular to people we don't even know?
Yeah, to Facebook.
We're needing for this validation, or, oh, I need to be doing that because that makes me okay, or that makes me whatever that is symbolizing, that makes me strong, that makes me healthy, that makes me all of these other things.
Well, and you can even relate it to athletics. I mean, we see this in running. Everyone go run, 5 to 7 miles. How far should I go? What pace should I go? I don't know. Go easy. Well, is that this? Is that this?
Right.
Do you see it? You go shoot free throws. Well, how many?
How many? I know.
I don't know. Go until until you feel like you've mastered it.
Yes.
Well, what does that mean? And it's those are the things for people to watch. You're becoming a robot when everything has to have essentially a rubric to it.
Yes.
We are becoming robots, but we're, again, as it relates to, we talk about food and we talk about body image, we talk about social media. It's, in order to look this way, I have to do these things. And it's not that plain and simple. We have to remember, especially after talking to, hormone experts, right? That it's not if I do this, this occurs. Your body's going to do what your body does. And you can do everything in your power to manipulate it, to help it, to abuse it, to whatever. But at the end of the day, your body's going to have to emit a ton of resilience because it's fighting whatever you're doing, or it's going to be happy because you're, whether it's you're eating imbalance, extra, whatever it might be, doing all the things. Right. So, but no one can tell the difference. And again, it goes back to your point where no one is intrinsic at this point anymore.
I saw an advertisement as an observation because of the information that we're receiving and how we're interpreting it in our own brains. So this professional is all lubed up, wearing a very, whatever, like a swimsuit, total spray tanned. Right? And the whole advertisement for working with this person is, I help you not regain your weight. So the thing that scares me about that is that, and 100%. There's this message of, I'm the symbol of what's right. One thing that I have been sensitive around within my practice is my body is my body. My Correct. Body is going to do what my body is going to do. And it's very important that we understand that your body is going to do what your body is going to do. And all we can do is support that body.
Right. And every body is different.
It makes me sad because it makes me feel sad because these comments, and you're seeing that, and people have this envision. I always love hearing what people envision when they think about how they want things to be. What they're doing is they're creating a body that isn't their body.
Correct.
Like it's not humanly possible because you have a particular bone structure, you have a particular shape, you have a particular, you're genetic, you're so different, and no one of us is the exact same.
But Nicole, when I was 18 years old, I looked this way. That's the retort, is people dive back 20, 30 years to a body that was probably not developed, pubescent, it's just like, what are you doing?
Right.
This is who you are now. And we've podcasted on this before, this lack of understanding that genetics occur, physiology occurs, aging occurs, like these things, we have to be okay with our body changing.
Yes. Because
and that it is
normal.
What it is. Right.
It's normal. What's not normal is this constant fight and unacceptance.
Yeah. It's okay to say, man, I fucking hate that my body's changing.
Sure.
It's okay to say that. It's okay to feel. What's not okay is when, well, now because I hate this, I'm going to, do 2 more hours of activity a day. I'm going to not eat this or that or whatever. Right. We see this bouncing, and then people wonder why I'm diabetic. I'm this, where it's like, no, just allow your body to change.
Right. And keep supporting it.
And understand what, food choices and activity choices may contribute to whatever changes you're experiencing at the end of the day. And what are some things you can do? Well, we don't want to say, well, my body changed, so I'm just going to throw everything up in the air and, take on a life of no vegetables or fruits or dairy, and just eat all the, like, we don't want to do that. There's people who do that, I'm throwing in the towel, so I'm just going to eat like crap the rest of my life.
Yeah. But to me, that's just another form of abuse.
Correct. It's one extreme to the other.
It's like, I can't be the way I want to be. So, I'm just going to continue hurting myself. I'm not going to, I'm basically then determining my quality of life, which is going to suck if I keep on this, why are we punishing ourselves? Because of who we are, because of what our structure looks like.
Because, and
heaven forbid, because of how much we weigh. I mean, that whole concept is still like, it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's
100%.
Unbelievably ridiculous.
Right.
of that would determine somebody's worth.
I don't understand it. All I can say is that that's how powerful the diet industry really is. I mean, at the end of the day, when you talk to someone in their 40s and 50s, where did they learn this stuff? I mean, ultimately it's gyms, it's TV, from commercials, advertisements, it's parents. But it sucks because people believe this stuff is like the truth once they've grabbed onto it. Yeah. But then why, to your point prior to recording, why do people want to live their lives feeling negative and self-hatred?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
It's this constant drive for it. This constant drive for it. The other thing I had wanted to make mention of too is this idea of, I have a couple clients who are kind of on this whole thing where whatever this means to them, because it's defined differently to each one of them. But like I do really well during the week and then I'm just like, screw it on the weekend kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Where there's this, I still kind of meet them with, where's the balance? Because what I'm hearing you say is that whatever that means to you, that makes you good during the week, is one extreme. And when I'm hearing you say, like, it's the screw it weekends, that's another extreme. So I'm still hearing an incongruency with what it is that you actually want for yourself.
Why is a slice of pizza bad on a Wednesday?
Well, I would agree with that too. I mean, but that's,
but where does that come from?
Agreed. But my other point though is that people are just like, oh, I really love doing X, Y, and Z on the weekends, or I really love going here. I really love eating this or whatever. And it's like, that's fine. But this is the whole point of it is, why do you keep fighting your desire? Why are you not just allowing yourself to actually have a pleasurable life? That's the whole piece, because you've got this where it's like, well, I really like to travel, which means I like to eat, and which means I like, good for you. But over here, I hate my body. So what I have to do is all this other stuff, but I'm still going to probably travel and eat. You're constantly on this weird swing. It's like, why can't you just meet yourself in that middle, find that middle ground, accept that you really enjoy doing life in a certain way, and see how that can be a supportive way of living your life? Do you see what I'm saying? Why are we fighting with ourselves constantly?
That would be the $1 million question. And I mean, certainly if anyone has any answers for us, that would be wonderful, because I can speak to the, healthy during the week and then letting it rip on weekends. I mean, that's classic old school Weight Watchers philosophy. That's, so many diets take on that, do this for 30 days and then, let it rip. Right. Like you can, so a lot of that stuff people have grown up with. But even like at work, you work so hard for 5 days and then you binge drink.
Sure, it's that whole philosophy, but it's still going back to body image though, and this desire of, I still hate these pieces of my body, so I have to do certain things, and I'm still going to also do this other behavior, but then I'm going to come back again and hate my body. That's the whole point. It's like,
it's an identity. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an identity, and people can't give that up, because again, it's scary on the other side. Well, me actually liking myself now, what are people going to think of that? And I know, again, like we've talked about, people might think we don't get it. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's one person on this earth who hasn't struggled with body image or some form of a insecurity at the very least. You know what I mean? No matter what it relates to. We've all had those feelings. So why do some people get hung up on it for years, literally their entire life? Why do you let that be your norm?
Because I think it's the brain circuit. It's just an easy way for it. It's how you relate to yourself. If you're not berating yourself, or you're not relating to yourself, because it's what you were taught,
Why are the numbers so much higher Why is prevalence up on this stuff so much? You know what I
Well,
mean?
and again, I do believe because there is so much more emphasis on our external world than our own individual internal worlds. Because if we were okay with our internal worlds, we wouldn't need the external world.
Right. Right. No, 100%.
But most people are not okay with their internal world or are afraid of it or are avoiding it for some reason. That's the rub, though. What's so interesting is there's so much more happiness when you're connected to who you really are and what it is that you really, you know, need, blah, 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 versus relying on something outside of you to tell you that, like, you're miserable out here. You're absolutely
Right.
miserable out here, but you're
Right.
afraid to go inside. So that's so interesting. So another piece of the body image thing was another listener actually who had also, listened to our clothes one that we had did. And they were kind of saying how some people have such different experiences with clothing, based on their size. What's important is that we understand that A, that's not true.
Right.
That B, we're actually all the same people experiencing these same experiences in different sizes.
Correct.
So, it doesn't matter what size you are, clothing manufacturers aren't great. And they certainly aren't fitting to all of the many different structures that our human population have.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what size you are. If you're looking at something that you really like, you grab a size that typically works for you. Even if you grab another size that, just to try on a couple different versions of it, and they all look awful because the fit is what it is.
Right. Right.
Some people may internalize that then as, what's wrong with my body?
Correct. Well, because there's images and mannequins all over that shows, that pair of jeans looking good on said body.
Right.
Not we all have a different physique. I mean, if you watch, and I don't know if you've watched it, the Abercrombie documentary on Netflix, and they point blank talk about how they created clothes and sizes to only fit people who are, like, what was it, a 6 or less? Like, that was the market they wanted. They didn't want other people wearing their clothes. Okay. Companies do these things.
Which is also incredibly strange. But I want to also talk about that too, where a 6 or below, but a 6 or below will still have a different structure.
Correct.
That won't be able to fit into what would it be? What's the word I'm looking? I want to call it an algorithm, but what I'm saying is into the whatever that they decided
calculation
to base their clothing sizing on. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, again, we're not all robots, and we're not all going to fit into everything we want to fit into. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, totally. So I guess, just to kind of round this one out and kind of bring it to a close here, in order to change our perception of how we see ourselves, we have to change our perception of how we see ourselves. When you and I are working with people, and I'm not trying to speak for you, I just understand that you probably do similar things, is, we need to start, and we talk about this in our book too, but we need to start emphasizing the qualities, the characteristics that are positive. We need to start making the list of all of the things that actually are really great about each one of us, right?
Right.
We also need to start changing how we're seeing ourselves in the mirror. When you, again, what happens in your own mind when you pass a mirror? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And I think the thing is observing that and then going, gosh, do I always want to have that reaction about myself? And if you don't, because you actually want to start experiencing something different, then what reaction can you choose to do instead? Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant. It starts by changing the actual verbiage around it, the language around it. and the frequency that
Right.
it happens. Because how many people are saying the same thing to themselves day in and day out, whether they're getting their clothes on for the day, looking at themselves in the mirror, or whatever situation they find themselves in, and these same tapes continue to play. And that's where we have to, again, that does take kind of coming inside a little bit and taking you out of that external place, right? And going, wait a minute, I actually have some power around how I want to start thinking, right?
Right.
It will take that awareness to do so. So, thinking about your own self-talk, one of the things that I like recommending too, because so much happens to ourselves on a subconscious level before we go to bed, which is why it's really important to be careful of what you're watching or reading or what you're doing before going to bed, because that's actually
it's going to have an impact.
It's embedding in your brain, in your cellular structure, everything.
Yep.
So, as you're going to bed or while you're trying to fall asleep, what are 5 super positive affirmations you can say about yourself,
Right. Yep. Anything positive, right? Like,
right?
God.
Like, I have the right and perfect body. I am super healthy. I have vibrancy and vitality. What are the things that are important to you and what you want to feel, right?
Right.
So if you can go to bed and say those same 5 things every single night, that's going to start impacting how you're seeing yourself during the day, and then catching yourself with whatever negativity you're saying, switching that to something different.
Doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's not an overnight thing.
Takes a long time. So the sooner you start.
Absolutely. If we can leave you with that would be great. We just want everybody to love themselves.
Yeah. It's like it's the least you could do for yourself.
Yes, completely. So, all right, everybody. Let us know if you have any thoughts about any of this at all. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit between2pastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.